Hello everybody, it's your boy, Not Cringe Political Posts. God, I can't hear a word I'm saying in these headphones. As you can tell, it's actually the Joe Rogan headphones. Cost me £79 on a website I forgot the name of. But anyway, how is everybody? How you doing? I'm just waiting for the chat to catch up and get everybody's greetings, because it's been a while, hasn't it? Now, I'm a bit rusty with streaming, because I did promise there'd be more streams, but then I got busy with other things, like making videos and life and not sleeping. And that's really it. It's no excuse, obviously, but it is what it is. But I'm finally streaming, and I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if I could do something with a stream, like a topic? And then Asdaja, my friend, decided to offer me something interesting. It was a Politiscales test. It's one of those many stupid political tests, but you get a gift with this one. Unlike the other ones where you get like a compass or you get like a sliding scale. I do believe you get a sliding scale with this one too. But you can also get a flag. You get your own little mini flag, which you can see in the thumbnail with me, totally not cringe political posts, cringing with at Shoe on Head, whose only difference is she's become more radicalised. She's now a commie as opposed to just a socialist. Although, is there any difference between these two? Hello, Asdaja, speak of the devil, and hello, British Knight. How you doing, mofo? Today we're going to go through the test. We're going to see what flag I get, and I love already how it's got like a trigger warning. So, this test tries to represent the widest set of ideas as possible and contains some phrases that can be shocking, notably concerning racism and homosexuality. I'm thankful that you told me. This quiz is a slightly modified version of Politiscales, which is based on 8 values. Wait, so there's another Politiscales test? I'm not doing that one. Anyway, let's see what they have to say about their own test. Welcome to the Politiscale, the online political test. You will be confronted to a series of affirmations, and for each of them you will have to click on the button which corresponds the most to your opinion. The questions assume that you are a citizen of a multi-party political system and a market economy. Well, Chinese people aren't in the market economy. They're in a semi-planned economy. Actually, technically speaking, hardly any places in the West are a true market economy. It's a mixed economy. So anyway, let's move on to this second bit before we begin. You can always avoid answering a question. Hey, that's good. Unlike others where you have to put like a definite stance, whether it be slightly or more. Some of them have neutral, but hey, you can avoid answering a question. But if you do not understand the meaning of one of them, try to invert its meaning for a better understanding of what, why. How, no, don't invert it. That means it's not that it's dishonest, but misrepresented. You're basically trying to guess what the question means and coming up with a false idea of your ideology. That's not something that I would recommend. Don't invert these questions. But anyway, if you want to see Shu's results, oh look, she's more radical. And they felt that not only did she need a kind of weird Catalan/socialist flag, because it kind of looks like Catalan. I don't know if Catalan is purple and orange. I think that might be Basque. Or maybe Aragon. Aragon. But they added a hammer and sickle. Sargon was right, or rather, I was right, and other people were right, because he still had faith in you up until 2018, 2019. You are a commie. But you're only a commie because you hang out with commies. Like, she even had does anyone remember when she had that Nazbol phase for a week, when she got catfished by her new boyfriend? Wasn't that funny? I'm not going to get into it, because that's not the topic of this video. So let's see who else is in the chat. Oh, hello there, Talmenian. Oh, thank you. New fresh haircut being debuted. So anyway, let's get on with the test, because I'm going to try and not invert these questions. I'm going to try and answer as honestly as I can, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and if I'm right, I'm right. Oh God. Hitting it out in the park right away, fuck's sake. Foreigners living in my country should be allowed to act politically equally to those who have the nationality. First off, no, they should get citizenship before they can act politically. Equally? Well, I mean, obviously, if a crime is done to them, they should have a right to call the police and have that crime investigated and sorted out for them. Obviously, they shouldn't be taken advantage of. They should have some level of rights, but it shouldn't be like the full amount that a citizen would have, I guess. Kind of like a Patreon tier, isn't it? If I can think of a metaphor, an analogy. You arrive there, you get your permanent residence thing or whatever they do, and you have your baseline perks. And then as you move up the scales, you become a full citizen and you get more. You unlock everything, I guess. Some citizenships, I think, are pay to win. I think in Britain it costs a couple £1,000 to become a citizen or something like that. Not all the time. Sometimes people become naturalised, which I guess is levelling up and grinding. But I don't think they should have total equality, I'm afraid. Absolutely disagree. The right to be anonymous on internet, you mean on the internet, should be guaranteed, yes, and here's why. There are people who have jobs on the line who need to have their voices heard, and if they come out with their names and full addresses and all kinds of things, they can lose that job, they can be attacked by people in the street, lynch mobs could form, whistleblowers need this anonymity because if the police can't save them, if the FBI is after them, if the government, like Obama, weaponises the law against them, they're going to need some kind of anonymity, and the internet offers that. And obviously, it helps with a variety of other things, like maybe rape victims need it, or take your pick, anything, you know. Anonymity can be a force for good, and of course, yes, it can be a force for bad, because trolls use it to hide themselves, and when they do their trolling ways, when they troll people. But hey, you know, it's two sides of the same coin in many ways. You take the good with the bad. It's a trade-off. Do you want people to be safe, as well as some people have their lives slightly, inconvenienced by a troll? I'd rather be anonymous. I'd rather have that ability than it taken away because some people have their feelings hurt. I absolutely agree with that. 116 questions. Oh my god. I don't want to be here too long. I really don't. It is necessary to implement assemblies to ration our production to the consumers. No. I don't even need to explain that. Everybody knows that the economic calculation problem is a thing. I am equally concerned about the inhabitants of my country and those of other countries. No. Especially America. I think British people need to stop thinking about America and thinking they live there and that they're the 51st state. I remember when most people in this country really didn't want to be the 51st state. And I guess if you ask people in public, they'll say like, oh yeah, I don't want to be the 51st state of America. Yet they're the same people who will be drawing George Floyd murals and protesting Trump and standing Biden as if they're their presidents, and that George Floyd is a British citizen when he's not. Just no, then I don't care. It depends. I guess it depends on the context. Obviously, it's like Hong Kong. I did care because of the cultural affinity that the islands have between each other, and I actually met a few of the activists in Manchester once, and they seemed very passionate and seemed to love not just Hong Kong but this country. And I really felt for them, and they were really nice people, and they didn't deserve what was going on, but it depends. It depends. And the Uyghurs, I feel sorry for them as well. Obviously, nobody deserves to be genocided, but I don't care what goes on in America because it's simply nowhere near as bad. And I don't care what happens in France for the most part, unless it's to do with terrorism, in which case it could easily come over here, and it has done, because they have to get through the continent to get to us. So, I would say I can't say I absolutely disagree. I'd rather disagree. Space colonization is a good solution for supplying the lack of. Yeah, obviously, yeah. Foreigners. It depends on the foreigner, but on the whole, because they're human beings like everybody else, they don't enrich. They're just mostly average. So I think I'll absolutely disagree. It depends on the person. So, like, for example, I would say my ancestors enriched our culture because, hey, I'm here. But I absolutely disagree. Most people are normal and average, and, what do you expect? And some people are even, obviously, before we go into this one, yeah, some people are below average, and I think we're maybe importing a bit too many of them. Wage labour is... No, it's not a form of theft. If you agree to sell your labour to somebody, that's on you. If you sign that contract, that's on you. The only way it's a form of theft is if it's slavery or indentured servitude. Revenues and capital should be taxed. No, it's theft. Insurrection is necessary to deeply change society. Well, it depends. If all other options are exhausted, then yeah, you've got no choice but to get a rifle and start the boogaloo. But if not, no, that's always the last resort. Violence is always the last resort, which is why the left are getting more violent, because they've run out of options, essentially, to fight the right with. It's true. Why have they resorted to violence? Now, maybe they haven't exhausted all options and they've jumped the gun, but I think they're getting desperate. So that's why they're resorting to violence and using the mob. That's what I think. That's what a lot of Romans did. I've been reading up on the fall of the Republic. It's not exactly the same, because in that instance it was people who wanted to gain power using the mob and violence. But the other side did too, but only because the other side decided to just use violence because it was effective. But the done thing was no violence. They didn't like mob violence or anything like that. But, you know, it is what it is. I think I somewhat agree, but I'd rather it be the last resort. I'm not a pacifist. Biologically, human beings are designed. We're not designed. We evolved. But yeah, obviously, I mean, this is a stupid question. If anybody wants to see a video about how problematic, I hate that word, but how stupid these quizzes are, just go and watch Freedom Alternative. They're really biased, and they're trying to corral people into a certain way. Like, that's a stupid word. I don't believe in design. I believe in evolution. Because design implies that it's, in many ways, when people say it's design, they almost mean like you know, the clockwork, the divine clockmaker, whatever he's called. Oh, fuck me, I've got the book, I forgot what it's called. But anyway, you know, the idea that we're like clocks, that the world is like a clock, and it was immaculately created by some person or a god. And when I look at nature, when I look at human beings, we weren't designed perfectly. Nature isn't designed perfectly. There's flaws. There's also positives, but there are a lot of flaws. Humans have a lot of flaws. Like, for example, babies take ages to grow and mature, whereas other mammals, they take less time. So I do agree that we're naturally heterosexual. Like, I'm naturally heterosexual, but I don't agree with design. I'll just do somewhat agree. Do I do absolutely or somewhat? I have to do absolutely. But then if I do absolutely, they'll probably think I'm some kind of Christian fundamentalist or Islamic fundamentalist, when I'm not. It's just biological facts, isn't it? I just don't like the term design. I'll do absolutely agree. Fuck it, that's what they want me to do. It's either that or absolutely disagree. My country must pay for the... No. Because we're not the people who did it. Maybe punish the people that were around at the time, but don't punish me. Reduction of waste should be done by reducing production. No. Maybe just try and find ways to handle reduction. I don't see why you should reduce production. What you should do is be able to change the technology so that production creates less waste. And also create technology that will allow us to reduce waste, not just in terms of getting rid of it, but in finding ways to... fuck it. You know what I mean, guys. I was losing my train of thought there. Basically, technology must be used to reduce waste, not in terms of getting rid of it, but also making less of it. So I disagree. We need to produce as much as we can, really. Because, you know, demand is always going to be there. There is no such thing as a shrinking market. And if we reduce production, there's going to be not enough people getting the things that they need. That's a socialist thing. It is important to encourage an agriculture that maintains a food biodiversity, even if the output is inferior. Well, we don't have that problem in the West, because we can create high quality food in large numbers within small amounts of farms. So I don't think that's necessary. I mean, I guess in the third world it would be. I mean, it may not be the best quality, but as long as it fills in your calories, you know, the minimum required, like 2,000 something for a man, you know, whatever, it doesn't really matter, as long as the people are fed. And then obviously as your country becomes more rich, you can develop agriculture, I guess, and the food can improve. not just in terms of quantity but quality. I don't know. People need to stand up for their ideals, even if it leads them to betray their country. No, never. That's Americans talking there. You can tell it was an American who wrote this, because that's what they think that the founding fathers did. But when you actually look at what they did after, and in fact, if you read between the lines what they were talking about for their justifications for the War of Independence, it wasn't about ideals. It was just money. It was greed. That's what it was fought over. It was nothing to do with these high, lofty liberal ideals. They didn't care about that, to be honest, because if they did care about it, they wouldn't have crushed the Whiskey Rebellion. Because remember, these are the same people who believed in Locke's idea that if the government has let you down, you should go out there and, obviously fight them. They destroyed the Whiskey Rebellion, who were just doing what they told them they could do in the Constitution, and not only that, they introduced sedition laws in the 1790s when I think, all the founding fathers, or at least most of them, were still alive, and I think they even voted for it in Congress, so that they couldn't be criticised. So you couldn't criticise the president, and I think possibly the Congress as well. You couldn't. And a lot of people went to jail for that. It wasn't about principle, guys. Hate to say it, Americans, but your myth is bullshit. At the very least, European and Chinese and Asian myths have some reality, some truth in them, but yours don't. Your country was founded on a lie. No, I'm just joking. Kind of. People need so does Shamima Begum, right, does she stand up for her ideals, which led her to betray her country? No, I don't think she had any ideals. I don't think she had any principles. She just wanted to oppress people with her religion. And the thing is, what we're doing in the culture war doesn't require treason, because the people who are betraying our country are the people like Theresa May or Joe Biden with his Chinese dealings and things like that. We don't need to anyway. And what do they mean by betraying anyway? Like, is it armed insurrection? Is it treason? I mean, it is treason, but like, in what way does that mean? I don't know. I don't know. I do agree that I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of stuck on this one. I'm going to say I'm neutral or hesitant, because I don't think you even need to betray your country to do that. There are ways. The influence of religion should decrease. Well, it depends on the religion, doesn't it? If Mormonism's on the increase, I'd be worried. If it was Scientology, would I be as worried about that? Or with Islam? If it was Islam, definitely I would be like, that needs to decrease in influence across the world. Mormonism, it's a sham anyway, so it'll just be, it's a scam. People would be getting hoodwinked into a religion that's not really legitimate. I hate to say it to my Mormon followers. I don't know. Look, the influence doesn't need to be so bad that it's a net negative. It needs to be a net positive. But it's a balance, isn't it? Unfortunately, it depends. I don't fucking know. The purpose of the judiciary system should be to punish those who went against the law. Well, yeah. Obviously. It is acceptable that there are... Yes. Because the world isn't equal. None of us were born equal. In fact, I am not equal to myself on most days. To paraphrase Thomas Sowell. And the thing is, what we need to do is to create a world where the poor, quote unquote, aren't actually poor. They're just the people with less money than others. Which I guess is already that, but you know what I mean. They're not under the poverty line, they're actually fairly comfortable. And that can be done without handouts, without UBI or anything. It requires a free market. Because we were heading towards that until World War One, unfortunately. But yeah, it is acceptable. Unfortunately, the way the world works, the way human nature is, the way human beings are, there's always got to be rich and poor people. And the thing is, we were founded in poverty, and we've done very well. I'm not founded. We evolved in poverty. We were birthed in poverty, and we've done very well to get out of it for the most part. Even the poorest people in the third world today are 1,000 times richer than our ancestors in East Africa. Like, there's no comparison. I absolutely agree it's acceptable. Because people also deserve the fruits of their labour, They do. Justice should always take into consideration the context and the past of the condemned and adapt the penalty accordingly. Well, you see, I guess, but it depends. If they're constantly doing crime, then yeah, you should. But if they haven't committed crime for a while, maybe you should give them the benefit of the doubt. And if they haven't done any crime at all, then yeah, maybe. But then again, it depends on the crime. If somebody's never murdered before, but then they murder, that shouldn't really be taken into consideration, regardless if it's their first conviction or not. So, I guess I would somewhat agree, but I'd rather it not be, to be honest. But what are you going to do? National chauvinism during sports is not... No, it is acceptable. How else am I going to banter with the Irish and the Scots and the Welsh? It's necessary for the banter, for the rivalry. And the thing is, for the most part, it doesn't even devolve into violence. And when it does, that should be punished, but people should be allowed to have their fun, as long as it doesn't devolve into hatred. Some of the best games are because of that. Brazil versus Argentina, England versus all the home countries, and Germany and Argentina as well. Take your pick. Hell, even Holland versus Germany. Players spitting at each other. It's horrible. They shouldn't do it, but it's entertaining. We should accept changes in our way of consuming food to limit... No. We shouldn't. The state or people like vegans shouldn't be telling us to do anything. If anything, we should not change the way of consuming, but changing the way we hunt or change the way we farm. It should be the method, not the diet, if that makes any sense. I absolutely disagree with that. Social differences between ethnic groups cannot be explained by biology. Well, it all comes from human biology, but we all have that same thing anyway, We all have this... Human nature is human nature, no matter what race you are. It can be, kinda, but when you're trying to say, black people like this because of that, no. Black people's culture is because they have melanin or their genes. It's pretty clear there's no evidence to suggest that. So I think I'd rather disagree with that. The police should be armed. To be honest, I do agree, but only if the citizens are armed as well. And I think there needs to be leeway in regards to self-defense. So if the police wrongly attack a citizen, be it a corrupt cop or a case of mistaken identity, if the citizen defends themselves and it can be proven that it was completely in self-defense, the police have got it all wrong, they should be allowed to walk. There does need to be something in regards to resisting arrest, because there are some people who resist arrest and there's overwhelming force that isn't required, but then there are people who resist arrest justifiably and they get put in jail. That shouldn't happen. It's funny because when that Breonna Taylor stuff happened and she went all over the news, she was a drug dealer, and I think she was the one who who was it that shot at the police? Was it a boyfriend or her? I can't remember, but she actually got him in trouble because she was the one who was doing the drugs. Well, there was a similar story, but the guy was an upstanding citizen. He was also African American. He heard a break-in in his house. He got his gun. He shot at the people. I don't think he could see them properly. Turns out it was the police, and I don't know what happened to him. If anybody can find that story, please do. I'm pretty sure he's probably in jail. That guy didn't deserve to go to jail because it was justifiable self-defense. Yeah, I do somewhat agree. Banks, yeah, of course they should. It's unfair, end the Fed. It is unfair to set a minimal penalty for an offence or a crime. No, I don't see how it can be unfair, really. Looking for one's own profit is hell. Yes, it is, because it's not... what is it that Adam Smith said? It's not through benevolence that the baker breaks his bread, but ultimately it benefits everyone when he does it for the profit. Absolutely. It's funny how self-interest actually ends up being altruism, isn't it? I think the two are linked. I think there needs to be a new word for it. We must fight against global warming. Well, first you've got to actually prove to me it's a proper threat to the planet before, to saying that we must fight it. And I don't think we can fight it. I don't think we can fight climate change. We don't have the technology. I mean, we can't change the weather. We can't change the climate. I mean, I guess we can via pollution and, changing our environment that way. But then we'd have to end up going into an Amprim society to end it, and even then it wouldn't stop. The world could end up going colder, or it could end up going warmer, we don't know. I don't think we can change it. The Earth will do what the Earth does, essentially. I'm with George Carlin, like, the planet's fine, we're not. We'll probably go extinct at some point. It's the natural order of things. I mean, what can we do? I'd rather disagree. We're not gonna win that fight. It's nature. Violence against individuals is never productive. Actually, I disagree with that. If that person is trying to kill you, and you kill them, that's productive. Not only have you rid the world of a murderer, you've saved yourself and possibly others. Although, when it comes to the death penalty, I'm a little bit more sus on that, because this happens a lot. If you convict the wrong person and they're innocent and they get killed, and then it's found out actually they didn't do it, it was another person, well, you can't release them now, can you? They're dead. That's not productive. And it doesn't even work as a deterrent anyway. People have murdered and done all sorts of things that are worthy of the death penalty for thousands of years, and it's not changed. So, and innocent people still get killed. But say there was a justifiable war as well. Say a certain Central European state got a bit too uppity and started attacking its neighbours, and that the end result could have been that you were next after they'd gone east, because let's be honest, to the people who said, the Austrian painter only wanted to go east, he would eventually have run into the British, who also had interests in the east, and that would have resulted in a war. Kaiser Wilhelm attacking Belgium, taking the Channel ports, directly threatened Britain, because then he would have had naval bases very close to the home islands in which to attack us. And because of the naval arms race, that was essentially him saying, through actions rather than words, I want to challenge you, and I don't care if war happens or not. So there you go. I somewhat agree. It's not acceptable that human actions should lead to the extinction of a species. Well, it happens, and in fact, other animals make other animals extinct. I hate to say it, I don't want them to die, but it's natural order of things. I'd rather disagree. You're not going to stop them going extinct. And in fact, some of them need to go extinct so that others can evolve and take their place. I'm sorry, it's the way the world is. Sexual orientation is a social construct. No, it's not. There's something biological to it. Although, I do recall there's no actual gay gene. So is it biological? I don't know. But it's not a social construct. It's very clear that these people have a physical, biological attraction to these people, but whether or not it's the environment influencing it, or there's something in the brain that would make them more likely to be, I don't know. Nowadays, employees are free to choose when signing a contract with their future. Yeah, they do. They've always been free to choose. They're not slaves. They've always been. Differences in treatment and quality of life in our society show that racism is still omnipresent. What does that mean? No, it's not omnipresent. I mean, it is actually, but not in the way that they say it is. I mean, I would say that racism against whites and increasingly Asians in America, not necessarily in Britain. In Britain, it's mainly whites, especially the white working class. That's more acceptable. But what they're really talking about with this question is, I guess, institutional racism. I mean, a white person can still be successful for the most part. There's not, and especially in this country, you're not likely going to find affirmative action here. We don't have that, at least for now. And even in America, you still find them, becoming successful despite all the hurdles in front of them. I don't know. I mean, in this country, we're not institutionally racist. So I'm going to stay away from America, stick to my country, and say that I disagree. It's not omnipresent. At least, not in the way that they seem to be wording it. I mean, in terms of attitudes, I guess it is. But in terms of actual actions, for the most part, no. Traditions should be questioned. It depends on the tradition and when and the context. As I said in one of my videos recently, I think it was 2 to 3 weeks ago, if the tradition is a net negative, you should get rid of it. But then if it proves to be a net positive again somewhere down the line, bring it back. Yeah, they should be questioned. Everything should be questioned, but within reason, within limits. obviously, because we can't question and deconstruct everything and have nothing at all, you know. So I somewhat agree, yeah. Oh, here we go. The categories women and men are so... No. One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. Now, that is definitely not what I initially thought it was going to be. I took it literally and thought, well, yeah, you start off as a baby, you become a toddler and a girl, and then you become a woman. But what they mean, I hope they're not, this is a trick question, I think. What they mean is, you can transition into a woman, can't you? But then it's both right, isn't it? You can transition, but you're not biologically a woman. I think by the end of 35, I'll go and check the chat, guys. I'm not going to ignore you. I can't say I disagree, but I can't say I agree. I hate these questions. I'm going to be neutral on that one. Alright, let's have a look at the chat, guys. Oh god, I'll just finish this question first. Alright, individuals who get out of prison should be assisted in their reinsertion. I assume into society, not prison. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it depends on the person. I think if they were found innocent on appeal or new evidence showed they were innocent, maybe I don't know. But where should the assistance come from? The state? I don't know. I think they do deserve it. You know, some of them, because they can. Some people can be rehabilitated, others cannot. But I don't know. I'm going to be neutral. Although I did veer into somewhat agree. But I don't know about that. So anyway, let's have a look at the chat. What y'all up to? Shoot Pass, my favourite channel. Sargon and Shoe having a go across Twitter and Facebook. That was a long time ago, though. The Shoe and Skeptic days. The power couple that never was. I haven't watched her in years. What did you walk into? It's the title, Zeo Gold. Read the title. It tells you all that you need to know. Yeah, the flag was similar to the Catalan flag. Ah, right, okay. Got it. Second Spanish Republic used a purple stripe. Ah, I see. That's where I must have got it from. Niet, comrade. The party must know everything. You don't seem to be having fun in the thumbnail. I do not have fun. Wait till the surfers on the hull here. They don't know who I am, Zio. You seem I have far more reach than I actually have. I doubt they care. But, I mean, yeah, the surfs once responded to me on Twitter, but as far as they know, I'm just a random guy that they responded to. It's nothing more. I doubt they care. Questions like this require an answer box. Yes, they do. Do you remember the days of Britain First? I was more leftist, did some brr things, and got the Facebook group removed. Yeah, they were annoying, but very anti-free speech of you. So you can write them all. Yeah, I suppose, but there's no point. What am I going to say? They think they are out of options on their road to utopia. Yes, the left are definitely out of... They think they are out of options. Whether they are, I don't know. Design, that sounds... It's not transhumanism. It's... I think they're referring to God. When really, it's not designed. It's natural selection. It's chance. Watchmaker. That's what I was trying to remember the word. Yes. The blind watchmaker. Thank you, Mass Creation. Yeah, it's watchmaker. Something very simple. Rationality rules. He's a bit of a noob, you know, from what I've seen. I mean, so am I, but you know. Reduce production to create the famine so we can finally live in the communist utopia Tovarish. Da Robotnik. Hello, Sir Adamantine. The Crown taxed to 13... No, they didn't actually, Zio. That's totally wrong and a myth. If you actually look at the statistics, you will find that not the Crown, but the government, Her Majesty's government, it's not the Queen that taxes us. They don't have the power to tax. By 1776, that power had long been removed from them. In fact, it was taxation that caused the Civil War. The first one, that is. Because Charles I thought that he didn't have to petition Parliament to raise the taxes or to lower the taxes, when actually, in English law, maybe not in Scottish law at the time, but in English law, you had to get their permission, because that's how it worked. So by the time George III was alive, He didn't have any of that power. He was slightly more powerful than Victoria was, but he didn't have the power to dictate to the Americans what they could and could not do. That was Her Majesty's government. And they raised the taxes in the 13 colonies because we'd just gone through a really, not a very destructive war. I mean, we did get a lot of territory out of it, but it was a war that really exposed a lot of issues. We nearly lost it at the beginning in the first couple of years in America, where it started. This is the 7 Years' War / the French Indian War. I don't know why the Americans call it the French Indian War, because the Indians were on both the French and the British side, but whatever. We nearly lost that war, and it was shown that in America there were some glaring defensive issues. So they thought, well, we need to pay for this, and who's going to pay for it? The people who live there. So they raised taxes. But even then, they raised it only slightly, and they still paid less than British people back in the home islands. We paid far more than any American ever did. And that is the truth of the matter. You could argue the Duke of Marlborough betrayed the country, but to be fair, King James II, yes, he did. Yeah, and Charles II before him, technically, because he made a backroom deal behind the country's back with Louis XIV, who was his cousin, which I didn't know until recently, saying that he would, for a huge sum of money which he needed, he would come out as a Catholic. Now, he never came out as a Catholic, and I'm pretty sure he did get the money. That was possibly he was using his cousin for that, or maybe because he was a bit of a mad lad, he forgot to come out, but I don't know. The best religion is the 9 divines. Yes, it is. I wish the Skyrim people shut up about Telos. Skyrim is definitely not for the Nords, because as we know, the Stormcloaks are actually agents of the elves of the Thalmar. Forgot what they were called. The Thalmar, I guess. The Labour Party won't be giving you any fruit. No, they won't. These questions were more specific. Yes, they're very vague. It doesn't help my autism. I started after you and I'm at 51. Yeah, but I'm doing a show. How dare you? How dare you question my speed? People put knees on people's necks in sport. Apparently so. Germany wins. Well, they didn't win with Brexit, did they? Nah, all police need are assault knees. BF shot thinking it was her drug dealing. Ah, right. Got it. Okay. But even then, it's not as clear cut, that case, if I remember correctly. People should watch actual Justice Warriors videos on that. Well, that's not very good, but the information is very muddled. Like I said, Talmenian, go watch actual Justice Warrior on that. Greta Thunberg. How dare you? We should fight Greta IRL. Come on. That's not a fair fight. Oh, Talmenian, don't be disappointed. Just move on, To quote Burger Krieg, we'll paraphrase him, he used to really like Sargon, now he thinks he's a hack, even though he's not a hack. He's pretty cool, still, to this day. He does not regret watching him, because he wouldn't become the person that he is now if he hadn't. And that's what you should think about. That's how you should see it. No, they're not having a go at each other now. Sargon, oh, right. Was that at the time, right? Inactive, we don't. Your face cam and audio isn't synced. Well, that's OBS, and it's been a while. I can fix it, but right now it's too late. I have to keep on going. I'll fix it for the next live show Inactive. Sorry. Maybe it'll fix itself in post. I don't know. We need Count Dankula to make absolute mad lads King Edward Longshanks. Yes, somebody's already done it for me. I do go live, Bebop. I do go live. Mind you, I might see if I can do a little bit of settings. Hang on a sec. Let's have a look. It's... Oh, I can't remember where it is now with this. It's... I think it's the... Oh, I forgot what it was now. It's been a while. 35. Well, it shouldn't really be quality. Have I had any drop frames? No, surprisingly, so I'll keep it like that. It's definitely the audio. It's I can't remember where it is now with the output. I can't remember, but I'll fix it later on in the month. Anyway, let's continue. Let's get ahead of this. It is legitimate for a country to intervene militarily to defend its economic interests. No, only if its citizens are being killed or brutalised do I think it's even necessary. If a country does something that harms you economically, well, find business elsewhere. I disagree. Schools should mostly teach our values, traditions and fundamental knowledge. I think it needs to be a healthy mix of all that and other things. So I would say somewhat agree. In some specific, no, it's not justified because, again, innocent people always fall through the net. And even then, I don't feel like I don't. It doesn't bring back the victims, does it? And it doesn't end the crime. The crime will happen anyway, regardless. Revolutions will always end up in a bad way. Yes, eventually, even 1776 ended in a bad way. The main goal of a couple is to make at least one child. It depends on the couple. I don't care what you do. Activism in existing political organisations is not relevant to change society. It's not relevant if there's nothing to change, but if there is something to change, yes. But I'm going to be neutral on that. It is merit that explains differences of wealth between two. Yes, for the most part, yeah. Euthanasia should be authorised. I would say only voluntary euthanasia. This is far too general. It should say voluntary euthanasia, which I think should be. If you can make an informed decision to kill yourself, I think you should. Why not? It's your body. If some of us are libertarians or classical liberals, we all agree that your body is your property, therefore surely you have the right to get rid of it. But because it's so general, I'm going to be neutral because I don't know what they mean by it. Market economy is optimal when it's not. Yes. Just look at Singapore, our country back in the day, Hong Kong before China fully took over, America before 1910 with the progressives. It works. If two countries have similar economies, social systems, and environmental norms, then the free market between them has no negative impact. Well, it doesn't have an impact even if it's different. If anything, the free market, which was the black market in the communist states, had a positive impact despite being completely different. So I would say, well, if I disagree, wouldn't that mean that, I don't know, should I disagree with this one? I keep neutral, I don't know, if in doubt. Order and authority should be respected in all circumstances. Absolutely not. If you've learned anything from COVID, it should definitely not be. And I'm British, why should I respect your authority? Marriage should be abolished. No, if people want to get married, they can be. It needs to be reformed. I somewhat agree. Oh, wait. Whoops. Somewhat rather disagree, sorry. There we are. I made a mistake. It is necessary to remove regulations in labour legislation to encourage firms to hire. Depends on the regulation, but yeah, I mean, I somewhat agree. The social roles of women and men can be partly explained by biological differences. Yes. Sabotage is legitimate under certain conditions. Again, yeah, if you're trying to get rid of a dictator, I guess, yeah. Offshoring and outsourcing are necessary evils to improve production. To some extent, yeah. But it depends. Like, for example, I wouldn't outsource. If I had a multinational company, I wouldn't even though it's rational to do so, and I'd make loads of money, I would not outsource to China. Like, if I was Nissan, I would not build a plant there. I'd rather build which they have done in this country many times. I'd build here. I'd build in America. I'd build in Europe. And even build in Africa. Like, say, Botswana or South Africa or places like that. Places that have a good economy, or places... Actually, maybe not South Africa. No, definitely not South Africa nowadays. But Botswana, I think Rwanda's got on the up. Places where it's relatively stable and economically viable, yeah. But not places like China where, I basically, my company has to be bought by their state, and I have no control over it, and the slave labour and stuff. No. I mean, they kind of are necessary evils to some extent, because of the nature of the free market, but it's ignoring that people have choice. The company doesn't have to go out there anyway. But I don't know. I guess I somewhat agree, but it doesn't have to be that way. All sciences, even chemistry and biology, are not uncompromising and are conditioned by our society. No, they're conditioned by what is out there in nature, not society. I disagree. Oh, for God's sake. We need to establish a monarchy to federate the people and preserve our sovereignty. Well, we already have one here. And as somebody who's not a fan of monarchy, I'm not dead set against it, I just don't prefer it. It's not my preference. A republic is my preference. In the classical mould, not a democratic one. No, it's not for me. I don't like monarchy. I don't think one person should have all power. Because power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. And as we've seen with the Roman emperors, whenever they gave it to their sons, like biological sons, it went to shit. But when they gave it to adopted people who were groomed for the role, it seemed to do alright. But again, that stopped after a 100-year period. It started with, I think, Trajan? No, Trajan, I think, was maybe the first adopted. I can't remember now. But in that Pax Romana era, the reason why it was so successful was because that power was kind of put in the hands of people who could at least deny the temptations, who could handle it. But no, the filing and storage of personal records should be delimited strictly, and database cross-checking should be forbidden. I think, I don't want to be spied on. I guess that's what it's saying. I'll slightly agree. We need to make compromises with the no, not anymore. No. Because they don't compromise, and once you give the enemy an inch, they'll take a mile. Hacking has a legitimate place in political struggle. Yes, it does. Watchdogs. Exploitation of fossil fuels is necessary. Yes, it is. Yeah. The state should be abolished. No, because I don't actually think most people could handle anarchy, let alone thrive in it. And I don't think it's going to be the paradise that my ANCAP friends think it'll be. So I'm going to rather disagree. I'd like to be proven wrong, though. It is necessary to teach history in order to create a sense of belonging to the nation. Yeah, but also to, learn the lessons of the past. But I somewhat agree. No, prisons absolutely should exist. A language defined by its users, not scholars. Yeah, pretty much. Scholars can only tell us what the words mean, or at least what the usage of the words are currently. I don't think they should be allowed to dictate. I do. I don't believe, for example, getting rid of the welfare state like that would help people. It wouldn't. It would be disastrous. The maximum allowed hours in a legal work week should be increased. 40 seems alright. What should really be the issue is wages. Wages is the real issue. It's not hours. Because what we have is that as the minimum wage in places that have it goes up, hours go down, and in the end, say you're working 40 hours a week on one particular wage, well, once the minimum wage goes up, you're then having to have your hours decreased, and rather than earn more, you're actually earning the same, and you're earning less. And not only that, because of inflation and other things like that, your rent's going up. It's not the amount of hours, really. And increasing them probably wouldn't be good for their health. Just look at Japan. I think you should have the option, obviously, you should have the option to say, yes, I'd like to do this amount a week, as opposed to that amount a week. But I don't think the state should intervene in that. It's up to the people and the companies to decide between themselves. So I would disagree, because I think they want the state to intervene in that. The labour market enslaves workers. No, it doesn't. Not in the West, because we don't have slavery. Heavy penalties are efficient because they are dissuasive. What does that mean? Heavy penalties on what? Crime? Businesses? What do they mean? I don't know what that means. In terms of crime, I don't. I mean, it depends, doesn't it? I don't fucking know. Maintaining strong economic growth should be an objective for the government. I mean, yeah, by not interfering. So I guess I somewhat agree. Dismissals of employees should be forbidden, except if no. No, I don't agree with that. Because sometimes sacrifices have to be made. And it's a hard decision for people to make. And if that means you have to reduce your workforce, unfortunately, you have to. Nuclear fission, when well maintained, yes it is, it's amazing. Research produced by my country should not be available. No, I disagree. No, we should share technology with the world, as long as it's not used to further nefarious goals. So for example, we shouldn't share it with China at the moment, because the CCP will just use it to dominate the globe. So we can't be having that. But say sharing it with a friendly nation, like for example Botswana, for my country, because we're Commonwealth nations, yeah, I'd share this new technology with them, because they're not going to harm us. In fact, we'll work together and it'll be beneficial. So I somewhat agree. Technology should be traded, but obviously there are limits. State-run companies should be managed like private ones and follow the logic of the market. Yeah, but the problem is they don't, do they? I agree they should, but they don't. So I'll say I agree, but they don't. And if they do, they'll collapse. Nobody will use them. I do not have any problem if other official languages are added or replace the already existing. I would have a massive problem with that. Wait, did I read that right? Yeah. Environmental norms should be influenced by mass consumption and not from an authority. No, I don't think so, because if it's one thing I know, the masses don't know what's good for them or what's bad for them in many ways. But at the same time, an authority doesn't know what's good for most people. That's a tough one. I have to be neutral, because it's both a shit. Activists must always... Well, then again... No, stay neutral on that, I think. Activists must always act in strict accordance with the law, not always. But again, if the option is there, and if you can definitely make change by staying in accordance with the law, do so. But I don't think always. Sometimes you have to break the law. Nobody is by nature predisposed to criminality. Well, I don't know, actually. I think there's something in there. There's something that makes people do it. I don't think it's necessarily environment. There are some people who just do it. Like, people think, oh, a upper class family wouldn't be predisposed. But then again, a lot of the people who shoplift, a lot of the people have there's a syndrome, isn't there? There's like a thing where people have a natural or an urge to shoplift because of the thrill. A lot of them are actually middle class to upper class people. Women especially, they'll just go in and steal a handbag or something because of the thrill. They get addicted to it. But there's something there, isn't there? So maybe I'll somewhat agree with that. The values of my country are superior to those... Yes they are. Loans contracted by the public sector, states, regions, communities do not necessarily... Yes, they do. Always repay your debts. The fact that some schools and universities are private is not a problem. It's not a problem. Oh, for God's sake. Homosexuals should not be treated equally to heterosexuals regardless. No. That's dumb. They should be allowed to, because there's benefits there that would help them. And I don't see why they shouldn't be allowed that. Now, obviously, if a church doesn't want to do the marriages, that's up to them, but I don't think if marriage is regulated by the state or whatever, I don't think they should be excluded. A good citizen is a patriot. No, I think it's more complicated than that. Oh, here we go. I think we'll look at the chat before we get into this one. I have no idea who made the test. It's not bad audio, it's just not synced inactive. All your clapping isn't going to do nothing. Democracy is the god that failed. Yes, it is. I'm not going to play my soundboard, guys. This is a super serial stream. 0 times 2 equals 0. Thanks for the maths. But it's not boomer audio. There's nothing wrong with the audio. It's just not synced up properly. Kleptomania, I guess that's what it is, yeah. Think it was Trini. Yes, and it's not my mum, it's my dad's side. And no, I did not say I was from Botswana. I said that we could trade with Botswana because of the Commonwealth link of the two nations of Britain and Botswana. I didn't say I was from there. I did not put the wrong answer, I put the right answer. See, that's your opinion, man. But anyway, let's move on. Transgender individuals will never really be the gender they would like to be. Unfortunately, because of, genes and chromosomes. Yeah, that doesn't mean that I don't respect them or anything like that, and that they can't legally be identified that way. But in terms of biology, they never will unless transhumanism develops and we can actually do that. Then it would be different. Then I disagree, But current technology, we can't do that. So, unfortunately, yeah. Culturally, you will be, if that makes... Culturally and legally, you would be, if that makes any sense. But, biologically, you're not. But they're going to make me out like I'm a TERF or something, which is not the case. I'm not a feminist, and I don't hate trans people, so... Social assistance deters people from working, as it does. In fact, if anything, it doesn't necessarily deter, but traps people. Some sectors or type of employment should be financially supported. No, let them die. It is necessary because you need other areas to grow, and if they can't grow because this fucking bloated corpse of an industry is there, it's going to ruin the economy. But whatever. It is necessary to massively invest in research to improve productivity. Yeah. Well, I guess. Patents should not exist. That's linked to copyright, isn't it? I don't know. Hormonal differences can explain some differences. Yes. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Deny that, guys. Come on. The sacrifice of some civil liberties isn't... No. I'm with Benjamin Franklin on that one. Preserving non-urban ecosystems is more important than creating jobs. Oh, this is that environment. I hate environmentalism with a passion, whether it be leftist or right wing. I cannot stand it. I mean, nature does need to exist, obviously, yeah. But is it more important than creating jobs for humans? I'm going to stay neutral because I can't stand that question. Members of a nation or culture who have some unchangeable characteristics. Wait, what? Members of a nation or culture have some unchangeable characteristics that define them. Well, are we the same Brits as the Brits 100 years ago? Or even the same Brits 10 years ago, or 15, 20? We're not actually. You'd be surprised how quick culture changes, Culture changes much quicker than biology, So, I actually disagree. I think there's some things that last longer than others, for whatever reason. I think that's mainly to do with natural selection of ideas, memes. But that doesn't mean that they won't change in the future. So I actually disagree. Multiculturalism, there should be one culture. GMOs should be forbidden. No, I disagree. Elections organised by the state cannot question the powers in play. Again, I think all power should be questioned. It is necessary to avoid a private monopoly. Yeah, but because of the way the market works, it doesn't happen anyway. It's never really been, in a free market, a true monopoly. But I do agree we shouldn't have monopolies because they're bad. Energy and transport structures should be a public matter. No, I disagree. Humans should neither eat. I disagree. We need it. We're omnivores. Transhumanism will be beneficial because it allows us to improve our capacities. Yeah, I somewhat agree with that. Just as long as nefarious people can't hack into us and steal our free will. If you believe in free will, that is. We should always distance ourselves from protesters who use violence. Depends on the protesters, but I do somewhat agree. It is acceptable that some industry sectors are private. All of them should be. A good policy is a pragmatic policy without ideology. Not always, sometimes it's shit. Like, for example, the ESL, the European Super League. That was a pragmatic policy without ideology. It was designed for these 15 clubs to get away from UEFA and FIFA's corruption. Unfortunately, they ended up doing it out of greed and all the sorts of stuff, and the market decided they didn't want it. Which is funny, all these socialists saying, oh, look at these greedy capitalists. Well, the free market not only got rid of the ESL, no, the free market didn't only create the... Is football even the free market? Okay, say let's just for the sake of argument say it is. The free market allowed them the freedom to propose this, but the free market, which is not controlled by a state, in reality it's controlled by the consumers. The consumers being the supporters and the football players and management and coaches and even other football boards as well and other authorities. They decided no, we're not having it, and that's why it didn't get off the ground, because these people call them greedy venture capitalists and business sharks, but they only respond to incentives and to signs in the market, and they read the signs wrong, and when they saw the actual signs, they stopped it. Except for a few who wanted to go down with the ship, like Perez, but no, it's not always good. Citizens should say yes, obviously. Technological progress must not change society too quickly. Well, the problem is you can't really control it. So I disagree. Only because you can't change it, you can't control it. It's inevitable, it's going to do something. Minimal levels of salary, no, it doesn't. It does the complete opposite of that. It actually makes people poorer. It is better to arrest someone potentially dangerous preemptively. No. Get a warrant. Pig. Transforming ecosystems durably to increase the quality of life of human beings is legitimate. Well, as long as it's like a human ecosystem, yeah. But if it's not a place inhabited by humans, leave it alone. So I somewhat agree. Abstinence should be preferred to contraception to preserve the true nature of this. Both have pros and cons, so I'm going to be neutral. Changes in an individual's way of life can induce changes in society. One person can't change that. Maybe if loads of people all of a sudden start doing it, yeah, but I disagree. Conditions of life in jail should be greatly improved. Well, if the jail's shit, yeah, but if the jail's not shit, I'm going to rather disagree. It is important that health should stay a public... After all this mess? No. Selfishness is the overriding drive... No, it's not selfishness, it's self-interest, which is not the same thing, I disagree. Sexual assaults are partly caused by... Women also do sexual assault, a lot of them. And I've actually got a video coming up where I'm going to use some interesting statistics for people. It's not about who does the rapes, but what causes the rapes, which is quite interesting. So I'm going to disagree with that, because that's blaming all men. When actually human beings have a dark side, and that dark side has a sexual component, and it's pretty much 50-50, I would say. No one should get rich from owning a business. Absolutely disagree, commie. Mass strike is good. No, it doesn't work. No, look what happened in 1978 to 79. The age of retirement should be lowered. Why can't people just choose when they want to retire? But hey, whatever, I guess. I'd like to retire earlier. Abortion should be limited to specific cases. I don't even know what I think about abortion anymore. I'm not even going to bother. I don't have a religion. Is that an individual question, or is it like... or is it a group question? I'm going to treat it as individual and just say, no. Armed struggle is sometimes... Yeah, if all They repeat themselves a lot, these stupid quizzes. But yeah, sometimes it is. Borders should know. No. Alright, here we go. What kind of flag is that? Why have I only got 3/4 of a gear? I don't know what the hell that is. Wait, fatherland, work, liberty. Alright, so... so work must be production. I'm apparently equally revolution, equally reform, which doesn't make sense. Apparently... I'm an essentialist over a constructivist. I mean, I'm not a postmodernist. Apparently I'm more rehabilitative justice. I thought I was more in the middle, to be honest. Progressive. Apparently I'm 24% progressive. Whatever that means. I'm more patriotic, obviously. Apparently I'm 10% commie. What did I say that was even remotely... Actually, no, there is no commie. It's 10% neutral on that, isn't it? Right, yeah. So I'm actually a capitalist. I don't know what the blue means. But hey, that's my flag, guys. That's my flag. Anyway. I think the stream can end after I talk to this chat a little bit more. I need to climb those 7,000 steps higher. That's fine, Talmanian. Don't worry about it. To be honest, I thought something had happened to you anyway. I was worried. Not the money, but about you. I thought, well, you've disappeared from these places. What's happened? I was more worried about you than me. That's not a sickle. How dare you? Inactive. She's not a man. Yeah, I only really got C's and B's. But anyway, I think I'll end it there. There's my flag. I don't really like the flag. I like blue, but not that shade of blue. I'm not a fan of yellow, and I don't know what the gear means. So anyway, I'm going to fix the sync for the next stream. So anyway, until next time, guys. This has been Not Cringe Political Posts. I'll see you all later.